So hey guys, welcome along to Sceammeupbotty and Star Trek Beyond. I actually had to sit down and watch this one again before I did this podcast. That's part of the reason that it held me up a wee bit as well. I've only watched this movie once or twice since it was released, and I don't know, some of the stuff I've been reading up about it online, uh, you know, it seems to be 50-50 with Star Trek Beyond. Like, there seems to be a lot of praise for it and, a lot of dislike for it as well. But I think the dislike is coming from the hardcore fans, the classic fans and whatnot. Just, people don't like new stuff or, reimagined versions of classic things like Star Trek. It's always going to be up against it with the hardcore audience whenever you try to reboot something. As far as the Star Trek reboot itself went, I thought it was absolute genius that they were able to not just reboot the series but also have it as a continuation of the original series of movies. So I enjoyed it for that. If you heard my talk about Star Trek and the Darkness, the wheels kind of started falling off it for me there. They just seemed to be doing, alternate universe. They do a similar thing, but switch the rules, whatever it may be, and do exactly the same thing, just in a slightly different way. And I was hoping we would get away from it in this movie, but we don't really. Kirk in this movie has his moment of doubt on himself, and he's thinking about leaving the captain's chair. And you know what, for me that sort of harkened back to the storyline in Star Trek 2 whenever Kirk was feeling, I'm getting old here, and like he was getting down because he wasn't the young man he was anymore. And it felt that they were going down that sort of a route in this one here. So for me, it is slightly different, but at the same time I'm still thinking to myself, I kind of see why they're doing it. But Chris Pine is a bit on the young side in this movie to be having these issues, but it's more or less, just the routine that's getting to him in this movie. And of course, as it's the third movie in the rebooted series of films, and we destroyed the Enterprise in the original third Star Trek movie, The Search for Spock, we're going to have to destroy the Enterprise in this one as well. So they do that. So that's the action sequences in this movie are beautiful. The effects are fantastic, and that is what it is. It's a great time. And for me, I'm on board for anything Star Trek, and I can sit down, watch a movie, and take out the good from the movie. And if there is any bad there, I can acknowledge it, but I'm not going to let it destroy it for me. As much as an ear bashing as I give Star Trek and the Darkness, that's not a movie that I'm never going to watch again. If it is on, or I'm stuck with nothing to do for a night, I'll give it a spin for definite. So in 2016 we got Star Trek Beyond. Now, the one thing I would say about the new Star Trek movies is the titles of them: Star Trek Into Darkness, Star Trek Beyond. It just feels that, I don't know, they're getting kind of lazy on titles for the movies, and those last two. I was hoping for something a little bit more iconic for a title of a Star Trek movie. Like you've got The Wrath of Khan, The Search for Spock, The Voyage Home, The Undiscovered Country, The Final Frontier. All brilliant titles for movies, but Into Darkness and Beyond, I was just kind of like, guys, your movie looks great, I'm enjoying it, but up your game when it comes to actually titling stuff right here. So this time, J.J. Abrams is not in the directing chair. It's Justin Lin. It was written by Simon Pegg, Doug Chung, and based upon, of course, Star Trek, the TV series. The 13th film in the franchise, third installment of the reboot trilogy. It started, principal photography, started in Vancouver, June 25th, 2015. It premiered in Sydney, July 7th, 2016, and was released in the United States on July 22nd, 2016. The film is dedicated to Yelchin. Now, I'm kind of gutted that kind of left my mind while I was watching this, and Anton Yelchin, who plays Chekhov in this film, or in the rebooted trilogy, Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness, and of course Beyond here, died in a freak accident involving his car, where he lived at. Now, just going by memory here, but if I do recall properly, something happened. He came home and the brakes failed in his car after he left it, and he ended up getting pinned between it and a wall, which ended up killing him. So that is a disaster. That's, that guy, had talent. In all honesty, I didn't see him anything else outside of Star Trek, but very, very likeable man. And of course, that's also dedicated to the memory of Leonard Nimoy, who died during the pre-production of this movie. And it was nice in that film to get a little tribute to the character of Spock, and of course like a double tribute to Nimoy himself within the film. So I love little nods I get to what has came before. And of course, you think of Star Trek, Leonard Nimoy is the one that's going to stand out from the crowd and just about all of them. So plot wise, within excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Plot wise, within the movie, the Enterprise arrives at Starbase Yorktown for resupply and shore leave for its crew. At this point, they're 3 years into their 5-year mission, struggling to find meaning in the journey. Captain Kirk has applied for promotion to Vice Admiral. He recommends Spock as a replacement. Meanwhile, Sulu reunites with his family. Scotty works to keep the ship operational, and Spock and Uhura have ended their relationship. And of course, Spock also receives news from New Vulcan that Ambassador Spock has died. The Enterprise is dispatched in a rescue mission after an escape pod drifts out of a nearby uncharted nebula. Its occupant, Kalara, claims her ship is stranded on Altamid, a planet in the nebula, and a massive swarm of ships ambushes and quickly begins to tear the Enterprise apart. The swarm's leader, Kral, and his crew board the crippled Enterprise, capture and kill many crew members, and attempt to capture the Abernath, a relic recovered during a recent mission. Kirk orders the crew to abandon the ship. Of course, the Enterprise is, it is literally in pieces before halfway into the movie here. On the planet, Kral captures Sulu, Uhura, and the other survivors, Kirk and Chekhov, accompanied by Kalara, locate the Enterprise saucer section. Knowing that Kalara knew they would be attacked, they trick her into revealing herself as Kral's spy. She is killed when Kirk and Chekhov escape Kral's soldiers and flip the Enterprise saucer, crashing on top of her. Again, the action sequences within this movie are absolutely fantastic. They're really, really good looking movies, but I think they're pushing the action a little bit further than what your average Star Trek fan really wanted to have. We wanted more character development and whatnot, but you do get a lot of that in this film as well. Like between McCoy and Spock have their moments in here as well, and there's a lot of really good moments in here. Spock and McCoy end up together for a good part of the movie on the surface of the planet whenever the crew are separated, and Spock explains to McCoy that the tension he witnessed between him and Uhura at Yorktown was due to his intention to leave Starfleet to help the Vulcan survivors and continue late Ambassador Spock's work. Jayla, a scavenger who previously escaped Krall's encampment where her father was killed, rescues Scotty and takes him to her makeshift home, which turns out to be the USS Franklin, an early Starfleet vessel reported missing over a century earlier. Scott is reunited with Kirk and Chekhov, McCoy and Spock. Krall coerces the Enterprise crew to hand over the Abernav, then uses it to complete an ancient bioweapon. With the device complete, Krall intends to kill Yorktown's inhabitants and use the base to attack the United Federation of Planets. Kirk and the others free the crew as Krall launches into space with his bioweapon, leading his drones to Yorktown. That whole drone squadron that he has is, a formidable enemy, and made short work of the Enterprise for definite. The Enterprise survivors power up the Franklin launcher in pursuit of Krall, theorizing that the swarm's system may be vulnerable to high frequencies such as VHF or radio. They jam and destroy the swarm by broadcasting the song Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. Now, I kind of like that touch in this movie. And Star Trek, you're used to that classical score the whole time, and to mix it up a little bit, especially with the Beastie Boys, was just a nice little touch in this one. It really worked well for what they were doing at the end of this movie. Krall is chased by the Franklin through Yorktown. Uhura, Kirk and Scotty discover that the Franklin's logs that Krall is actually Captain Edison, a pre-Federation human soldier. Edison rejected the Federation principles of unity and cooperation with former enemies like the Xindi and the Romulans. It was nice to have a little reference to, in a Star Trek movie, towards the Xindi. Of course, Star Trek Enterprise was set before Kirk's time and it was after the movies, more or less. So it was nice to get a movie where you got something that harkened back to something within the Star Trek Enterprise series. When he and his crew, this is a Captain Edison, when he and his crew were stranded on Ultimate by a wormhole, the survivors used the extinct natives' technology to prolong their lives at the cost of the others, and repurposed the ancient race's dormant mining drone workers into swarms. Thinking the Federation had abandoned them, Edison planned to destroy the Federation and resume galactic conflict. Kirk pursues Edison into Yorktown's ventilation system, where Edison reactivates the bioweapon. Before it can spread, Kirk ejects it and Edison into space, where the weapon disintegrates Edison's body, and using an alien ship, they commandeered Spock and McCoy, save Kirk moments before he is also blown out into space. In the aftermath, Commodore Paris closes the files of Captain Edison and the USS Franklin. Though offered the promotion to Vice Admiral, Kirk decides to remain in his position as captain, and Spock chooses to remain in Starfleet and renews a relationship with Uhura. On Kirk's recommendation, Jayla is accepted into Starfleet Academy, and the crew celebrates Kirk's birthday. They watch the construction of the new starship, USS Enterprise A, and resume their mission at the end of the movie. I don't know, I thought it was going to be a hard time watching this one back, because I do recall having those few little issues with it at the start, thinking to myself, they're harkening back to far too much of earlier Star Trek movies here, and sort of the stuff that they're covering at the beginning of the movie. Like, even Kirk and McCoy sitting down for a drink was very, very reminiscent of the Kirk McCoy drink and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And of course, destroying the Enterprise. Of course, it's when you get to the end of the movie, you realise why they've done it. It was a huge plot point. They're going to go after Edison and his own ship, sort of a deal. And what they do at the end of the movie, they were going to, like, the Edison crash lands at the end of the film, and of course, they weren't going to do that with the Enterprise. They were chasing somebody down, so it had to be sacrificed, and the way that it was. Just before we go any further, there's a truck of some sort outside the office making a lot of noise, so if you're hearing that in the background, I do apologise. At the end of the film, what it did like was you were getting a lot more of William Shatner's Kirk by the end of this movie, and Kirk finds his, reignites his passion for the captain's chair, and they're talking about, McCoy's talking about, going out into deep space, and McCoy's like, we could get killed at any point, and Kirk's like, it's going to be a lot of fun. So that was just, William Shatner's Kirk coming back into it there. And I did like the little touch when Spock is going through older Spock's personal belongings at the end of the movie, and he's still in two minds to what he is going to do, and he opens up this little photograph of the Enterprise bridge crew from the future, and you actually, for the first time in the rebooted series, you get a little look at the original cast lined up, and it's blatantly a promotional photograph from one of the movies. I believe it was Star Trek 5, I want to say, and I was just like, that's a nice touch, incredibly cheesy, but a nice touch. Having a really emotional moment from a blatant promotional photograph of the Enterprise crew on board the Enterprise. But it is what it is. And there's a certain level of cheesiness you need to expect from a Star Trek movie, and I can appreciate that sort of stuff. Like cheese sells. but I had a really good time watching this film, and this is only the third viewing for me. I believe the third viewing, like it's no more than 4 or 5 at this point, but I can kind of see where the classic people were coming from. It's not the Star Trek that I'm used to, but it's incredibly entertaining, and the cast are fantastic in the movie. And I have to say, I've said it in the last 2 reviews, since they recast the original crew of the Enterprise, and everyone in there does a fantastic job, from day one, I just haven't been able to take to Simon Pegg as Scotty. I wasn't able to do it in Star Trek, I wasn't able to do it in Star Trek Into Darkness, but I have to say, Simon Pegg won me over in this film, and if they continued it on, I would be happy and contented to have him in the role of Scotty. It just took a little bit of time to warm up to him. Fantastic movie, and we don't know if these movies are going to continue. There has been a lot of talk over the last few years about where they're going to go with Star Trek after this. Of course, they're going to have to think about recasting Yelchin as Chekhov. It's just a necessary evil at this point. Like, he's gone, and they'll have to replace him. But I've heard a lot of weird rumours about different people that have came up with ideas. One of the newest ones that I've heard is Justin Lin may come back to do the 4th one, and after the job he did and beyond, fair enough. But one of the craziest ones I heard was Quentin Tarantino had either tried to get the job as director, or he came up with a story idea for the Star Trek movie. And I really did laugh, because I was thinking, Tarantino, I like his movies, he's a great director, but does his style and personality and the stuff that he does, would that translate into a Star Trek movie? Can you imagine it? It's like, unidentified unidentified starship. This is the Starship Enterprise. Identify yourself, and then the response comes across the intercom. Go on yourself. But yes, went on that weird little spot there. Didn't want to swear on the show. I'm trying to keep it as family friendly as possible, but you know where I was going with that. His dialogue is incredibly colourful. That would just be weird to hear that in a Star Trek movie. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Sceam Me Up Botty. We're going to be back to Tuesday and Thursday upload schedule. What I'm thinking of doing now that the movies is over is on Tuesdays we're going to do new Star Trek, and on Thursdays we're going to do classic Star Trek. So we're going to be bouncing back and forth and I'm thinking I'm going to start off with a series on Star Trek Picard for the new stuff, because coming out of the movies, the Star Trek Picard series is, there's a lot of stuff in that there that harkens back to Star Trek Nemesis. So I think it's just a natural progression to start off with that series and the new stuff, because of course the last time we seen Picard before that series was within the movie, so we're very close to it. And they're on here, and on Thursday we're going to be doing the old Star Trek stuff, classic Thursdays, and we're going to be starting off with Star Trek, the original series, every Thursday for the foreseeable future. It's going to take a while to get through that there, and of course when we're done with that we'll go to the next generation, and so on and so on. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. Please consider giving a little thumbs up and sharing it along to anybody you'd feel would be interested in checking it out, and I will talk to you on Tuesday on a new episode. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much